Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell, the Christmas tree is still being lit up. We will take it down shortly, so don't worry about that. It won't be up for much longer. However, in today's video, we will be talking about a snowstorm. So if you recall, we talked about this for the past couple of days. The confidence was low. It's still low on the details. At this point, the storm will be occurring. It's just a matter of when, but things are looking very, very exciting, and potentially it could be the biggest storm of the season for the Midwest if it does occur the way things are looking. So if you're new from yesterday, the threat, the potential has gone up, and it's pretty exciting, to say the least. The pattern looks snowy. Many cities could get over a foot of snow, possibly, if by the way things are looking. So, if you guys enjoy these videos, consider checking out the other videos on my channel. Consider subscribing, and if you want to support it, always liking the video would help a ton. Alright, so let's start talking about the snowstorm and the snowy pattern. There's a lot to cover. Alright, so let's start off by looking at the GFS model, Global Forecasting System, right? So this model, I will show you as many models as I can. I will try going quickly and also make it clear so you guys don't get lost, as I know sometimes this stuff is confusing, either just the weather models or the way I present it. That obviously is something to work on, right? Notice that the GFS right now is showing a clipper across the northern United States, really into southern Canada for the most part. So my folks in southern Canada, across Ontario and into Quebec, do expect some light snow showers. Really nothing significant. It will kick up a bit of lake effect off the lakes. You could see into Michigan, into the UP of Michigan, off into Erie, potentially Watertown maybe as well. So those areas did pick up already a lot of lake effect. Expect a bit more. I do not know exactly how much these amounts will I guess vary, because they do not have warnings or advisories up as of now. But if you were to look at the snowfall reports, they are very high from the past couple of days. It's for some reason, there we go. Alright, the highest amount is from Glenwood, New York. I think that's just south of Buffalo at 31 inches. So they definitely did get quite a bit. Erie came in, I think, over 8 inches. There was an Erie report here. A lot of snow, especially across Ontario in the last couple of days. Lake Ontario. By the way, for my folks in Chicago yesterday, that little system dropped over 2 to 3 inches. The biggest storm of the season, which is kind of sad to say, especially since it was a moisture-starved clipper. But this winter is, it's unfortunately that sad. Notice that for at least Illinois and probably Michigan as well. Notice that New Mexico has decent reports of snowfall as well. And again, let's start talking about that potential storm. Going back to the GFS, notice what we see is this upcoming Saturday. So this storm will be coming in 2 phases, if you will. One we are more confident in, and a lot of models agree on, and the other one is a bit all over the place, but it's better than what we were yesterday, a better place, if you will. So that is good news. We're, achieving confidence, if you will. Notice this system is going to make its way onto the West Coast only around late Friday, so it's still a bit away. I mean, we're late Wednesday afternoon, and this thing is still far away. But it does not waste any time across the west. It does drop a lot of precip, but you know how sometimes storms stall out or they take their sweet old time. This one just speeds right off, and by 24 hours later, it's already affecting the plains. While still dumping a lot of snow for, say, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, Colorado. That's also what I want to mention. Those locations will be picking up quite a bit of snow. Salt Lake City, most likely, northern Arizona, New Mexico. I think there will be plenty of locations that will be picking up snow. Now, the snow doesn't look to be too heavy, but again, it's the mountains, and in some places there could be a bit of aid from a flow of wind, say, upslope of the mountain, and that could squeeze out more snowfall. So again, the mountains are very hard to predict. So for official details, go to the National Weather Service, as with anything that I show here. But again, there will be snow. How much and where? Please refer to your National Weather Service. What we see here, the GFS shows a large area of snow, and this track placement is pretty consistent with most models. They show a lot of snow generally speaking, it's not going to be a historic event, but 3 to 5, maybe 6, 7 inches across Minnesota, North Dakota, Iowa. Notice, and it spreads into Illinois, Wisconsin. This is the GFS, so this model still varies compared to other models, but generally this first system is consistent. Notice the GFS has been consistently over the past few days bringing this rain snow line pretty far to the north. I would say right now this will be probably a bit further to the south, because if you look at most other models, the GFS is the most northern one. Regardless, even if this does go a bit further to the south, this rain snow line, this vertical column of snow in terms of distance is still pretty tall, and it will be affecting places like Minneapolis, Green Bay, Milwaukee, right, central Michigan, Detroit. Now again, this may be a bit more snow or rain depending on the exact track of this first wave. That's not the significant part. Regardless, if you were to look at the snowfall amounts across the west and from that first wave, they are still something to be watchful for, as sometimes these go under the radar, especially if a more ominous second wave overshadows it. Notice it does show about 6 inches for, say, southern Minnesota, much of Wisconsin, most of northern Iowa. Again, I would say that this will probably spread into with at least several inches, maybe 3 to 4, maybe not as heavy as Minnesota, into Illinois, Indiana, southern Michigan. But this is what the GFS shows, right? Notice pretty good amounts across Salt Lake, into the Colorado mountains, northern Arizona, more probably than New Mexico, Sierra Nevada. Going back now to the GFS, we are now at Monday, January 25th, so we are already 5 days out, and this is where things get interesting. We have a huge area of huge area of rain associated with a rather weak low pressure, and this will be dropping a lot of rain. Notice even maybe some severe weather potential. That looks to be more of a heavy rain threat rather than severe weather. So regardless of the snowy side, the rainy side is also looking pretty potent. Lots of rain for the south. Definitely something to watch for. Notice what the GFS does. It just takes this system and takes it off the coast. It doesn't do much with this at all. It's one of the few models that actually does this. It just completely steers us off, brings light snow, and if you were to look at the GFS, you'd be like, where's the heavy snow? And that would be it from that system. Lots of rain, a bit of snow from the first wave, and that's it. So let's take a look at other models, right? Let's take a look at the Canadian model. So, as I already mentioned, we will be having that clipper, right? Bit of lake effect, bit of rain across the southern United States into tonight and tomorrow across really the Gulf Coast areas, not even maybe affecting the northern Georgia, Alabama area. Confined to the south. Notice we have that system moving in relatively similar timing to the GFS, and it's surprising on how confident or how similar the first wave of this is, but then how different the second one is with the Canadian and GFS. So look, again, light to moderate snow across Minneapolis, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I just said the biggest city, Des Moines. Again, you can see the Canadian does bring it into Chicago, Michigan, again, more leaning towards the north with the UP picking up quite a bit into Green Bay. But this is the difference. Canadian shows a lot of precipitation, right? But notice what it starts showing. It starts showing this heavy snow threat further to the north. You can see Illinois, Indiana, Ohio seeing very heavy snow with a west to east oriented storm system extended over possibly more than 24 hours. Notice affecting Cleveland, Detroit, northern Indiana, Iowa, Chicago with potentially over a foot of snow. New York City, Long Island, Rhode Island, right? Connecticut, rain snow lines straggling New Jersey from this model run. Again, this is not even close to being refined, so don't get frustrated quite yet if you are in the rain, or don't get too happy yet if you are in the snow for now. And notice that takes it off. So with the Canadian, obviously the snowfall amounts are going to be pretty heavy, rather very heavy, right? So I don't want to get anyone too excited here, but like the west seeing copious amounts of snow shows more for the west, the Canadian, than the GFS, which I would say is more realistic from the Canadian. Notice that the Canadian does show snow across Minnesota and Wisconsin, generally lighter than the GFS, still a good 3 to 5 inches, especially since it will be falling at probably a higher ratio than 10 to 1. But these amounts here will be falling most closely to a 10 to 1 ratio, and look at that, you know, well over 6 inches, if not several locations, if not many, getting over that foot of snow. And again, this would be a storm that would bring a lot of snow to New York City, Long Island, upstate New York, into Iowa, Nebraska, southern Wisconsin, and this will probably still switch. And just to show you, say, from yesterday's Canadian midnight model run, I want to now demonstrate the change and how this changed. Notice it was further to the south with this storm system. Let me just go to the precipitation radar field so you guys could get a better look at it, as the snowfall amounts don't do as good of a justice to how much this has changed. So really, even yesterday and today in the morning, really early morning hours, it was showing this low pressure further to the south with less snow. There we go. Holy cow, this is not loading for some reason, these models. So if you recall, the Canadian now shows this further to the north. This is what it showed yesterday or today at midnight, so almost 15 hours ago. Notice more than 15, sorry. Notice what it shows is low pressure, right? It dumped a lot of snow into Missouri, into potentially Virginia, southern Pennsylvania, right? And that was the potential, and at this point it has shifted that further to the north. You can see there's that change. So, that's unfortunate for those locations that wanted to see it yesterday with this tonight's change, but it could easily still switch back to the south. I don't think it's as likely as a trend has been further to the north. Again, the confidence on this system is still notably pretty low, and we will just have to wait and see how this progresses. So you can see this was yesterday's model run, right? It showed that first wave, bit of light snow. Then it tried pushing it to the north, but it didn't, and brought snow further to the south. I do want to say that even if it does not occur for the Virginia area or the Kentucky area or further to the south, there are plenty of models that show other storm systems across the south. So let's now go to the European. Track this out slowly but carefully, right? We have the Alberta Clipper, whatever you want to call it, going through the United States today, and Canada, especially southern Canada. Notice light lake effect snow, potentially heavy across some areas. Doesn't look to be long lasting though. Notice we have that batch of rain, right? System makes its way onto the coast late Friday, or really midday Friday, but it moves into Colorado by late Friday, early Saturday. Notice Utah, Nevada, Colorado, Wyoming seeing copious amounts of snow or rain, so that's good news as they are dry. Notice the European does really not show as strong of that first wave. That's the main difference. You can see that the track and the orientation and the timing is relatively similar. I wouldn't say the timing is particularly well lined up either. Some models show it 12 hours earlier than others. Notice the European keeps that a bit weaker, right? But it takes on a Canadian characteristic as that it pushes it further to the north. The system then compared to yesterday. Notice, look at that. It shows very heavy amounts of snow pushing into Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Michigan, right? A lot of these locations haven't seen a lot of snow this year. Look at that. They're just going to be potentially slammed if this were to occur again. It's very early. I don't want to make any assumptions. Notice a thud of snow occurring into the mid-Atlantic before transitioning over to rain. New York City staying as snow through most of the event and then pushing into the northeast. I do want to say, look at what the European does. It shows more systems and look further to the south. So if you live across Georgia or North Carolina, Virginia, don't get disappointed even if this system ends up tracking to the north, which again at this point is still uncertain. It still may go back to what it showed earlier. Okay, regardless, let's not get distracted. Let's go to hour 168 when this first system is fully done and through, and take a look at the total snowfall footprint it leaves behind. Notice a lot of snow for the west: Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, especially Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California seeing quite a bit of snow. Notice we do see a bit into Oregon and Seattle as well, right? Look at that. That pops out right there. Quite a bit of snow according to the European, assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Not really affecting Minneapolis, say Green Bay with the heaviest amounts. But again, this could shift further to the north. This could shift back further to the south, or completely kind of disorientate itself into a different kind of track. Notice that it does show snow for New York City up to 6-7 inches. Northern Virginia, Maryland, Delaware still seeing a good amount of snow comparatively from this system. Not a blockbuster. Say 12 hours ago, this is what it showed. You could see it tracked it further to the south, less organized as it was further away from the cold air. So definitely there has been a northward trend. And just take a hour, 24 hours ago, you could see it showed again that light snow band, but it centered that system further to the south. And with today's model run, it really just cranked the system up from a weak system to a potential beast. So a lot of exciting development has undergone in the last 24 hours, right? Ever since the last video. Let's take a look at the GFS parallel model. Forecast loop it through. Well, I just showed you the snowfall. That kind of ruined the point of it. But let's just go to the forecast loop and time this out. Notice we have that clipper, right? Rain across the south tonight. We have that low pressure making its way onto Friday across the west. The GFS parallel, what it does is interesting. It shows that first band of snow very strong, relatively much stronger than compared to the European, and still modestly stronger than the Canadian or the regular GFS. Right, and notice that it brings snow into Chicago, Wisconsin, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Duluth, as far as Duluth, Marquette, potentially Des Moines, into Detroit, Grand Rapids, Lansing, and then into Cleveland, Pittsburgh, right? And then it kind of dwindles down, as most models show that, but it does leave a footprint of moderately heavy snow. Now, look what it does with this wave. It does something what the other models were showing more of yesterday. You can see it does not take it far to the north. It does show snow and potentially heavy amounts across southern Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Look at that across, kind of starting to develop maybe something right there off the east coast, but it does move off. By the way, the GFS parallel for several days has been advocating for a potential snow system across the deep southeast of the United States. It's this little guy right here, notice, right? Drops snow across Missouri, Illinois, and then kind of develops something right there. With this model run, it doesn't show anything too impressive, but the chances are there. And just in speaking about the long range, things look very active for February. So let's take a look at the total snowfall accumulations, right? And see what happens. So look at that first wave, showing much more snow for, say, southern Minnesota than the European or the Canadian. Shows up to 5-6 inches. And I'm assuming if I were to put on the Kuchera, the amounts would be higher, as there will be chillier temperatures, allowing that snow to be more of the fluffy type, right? Notice, yeah, I mean, it's quite a big difference. You can see showing 6 to 8 inches, a pretty moderate event from that first band if it were to unfold like the GFS parallel shows it to. Right, now the second wave you can see is a bit more weaker, quite a bit more weaker, if you will. It's further to the south, right? But it's weaker. And notice that it does show a lot across Pennsylvania, and it's stronger for certain locations, but as a general whole, it's not as much. And say from the morning model run from the GFS parallel, let's see what it showed just to compare how much it has changed. As I showed this with other models, notice it still was advocating that a very strong first band of snow, and it's still doing that. And notice it showed a lot more for, say, Missouri, Kansas, and into the Northeast as well. It did consistently show that. But notice there's a strong disconnect. And the GFS parallel kind of has remained stubborn in that sense, that it's one of the few models that we just looked at that is still showing that setup. Now, is that a good thing? You know, it may be onto something that the other models aren't on. So that's definitely something to watch for. This was from yesterday's model run in the evening, 24 hours ago. Notice this has definitely taken a bit of a southern shift, but still the amounts have stayed relatively consistent. Notice this is what it showed yesterday. It showed that snow more across South Carolina, North Carolina. So the GFS parallel has jumped around quite a bit, which kind of diminishes a bit of its reputation. However, it does not mean that, you know, its trend right now isn't something that could be accurate. Regarding the high-res models, it's just too far out to take anything significant. They just barely begin to start showing the arrival of this wave. Sorry, that was as of yesterday. Today, still just too far out. It does start beginning showing that snow, right? And it shows quite a bit of it across the Minnesota, North Dakota area. Sometimes the high-res does this, and we'll just have to see if it maintains that trend. But that's definitely something we'll have to start watching, the high-res, as up until today they did not reach that far out. The United Kingdom meteorological model, this is what it shows. Notice it shows that first band, right, relatively good amounts of snow, but a bit further to the north, say it cuts off into Chicago, Indiana, and Michigan, but it does bring good amounts here, right? And then notice that across that second wave, it does show snow across more of the northeast rather than further to the north, but it still is a northern shift from, say, yesterday at 12Z, which it's just showed that first band. So sorry, that was a bit too far to the back. I jumped. You can see it doesn't show us, unfortunately, the surface and precip radar, but it does show us the snowfall amounts, and you can see it was more southern oriented. Still a strong disconnect. All right, let's take a look at the model ensembles. As in situations like this, we always need to look at the ensembles. As right here we have 51 European ensemble members, right? 50, and there's the one operational one. I just have it on a random one. I want to get it to the time frame of that first wave and jump through models, and let's see what they have to say. So let's leave it right there, hour 102, and see what it shows. Again, this is the first wave, not that second strong one. Notice that a lot of them show a weaker system, right? And some show a stronger one. If you recall, the European was one of the models that showed the weaker first wave, unlike the GFS members, which show a stronger first wave. You can see it does show a lot to the south, but again, that's mainly associated in getting ready for that second wave, if you will. You can see it does have that rain snow line further to the south, and it doesn't have as much snow for, say, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Notice there definitely will be light snow with that first wave. Some models show as much as 7 inches, like the GFS ensembles. The European don't show that much. Once we start bringing this forward, we start seeing that second wave develop. Notice very, very moisture laden, lots of ice potentially if this were to occur for, say, like this model shows it to. Notice it doesn't make very much progress to the north. Once it stops, it kind of starts sliding to the east. But regardless, let's stop at hour 138 and start running it through the ensembles of the European. This one shows it. You can see the timing is, this one's a bit earlier with its system, almost done across Midwest. This one's further back, and notice, these snowfall rates would be ridiculous. That one's further to the north and east. I'm not really showing much of a second wave. Look at that one right there, mostly done with it. And even with models like this, they do show it across the Midwest. They're just a bit earlier with it. So let's just leave it at hour 126 for the sake of those models that have it a bit later. Notice this one's showing a bit further to the south, but I'm assuming it eventually would push it further to the north. That has been the trend. You can see it has been definitely shifting to the north, while you can see this one would be more across the Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio area. It's definitely something that could happen, right? And there's not a lot of models that show that scenario. There's a lot that just show it kind of further to the north, but again, the GFS parallel, for example, shows it even further to the south. So look at these European ensembles, right? Show many differences. Some show a very strong system, some show a bit of a weaker system, but generally, regardless of how this unfolds, it looks super, super interesting for the United States. Many locations could be picking up, a ton, buckets of, shovelfuls of snow. Across especially areas that haven't seen much this year, say Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. And notice that the rain snow line in some of these does get kind of far to the north, but it's still a good amount of snow would fall by the time that occurs. You can see ice, snow, sleet pulls way into the northeast. So in terms of the total snowfall from, say, the EPS members, let's take a quick glance. 15-day snowfall. Unfortunately, if I go to the 5-day snowfall, it's not far out enough to show that system. Look at that. A lot of them oriented that heavy axis right across kind of the Iowa, Northern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Southern Wisconsin, Central Michigan, Pennsylvania, and into New York City, maybe Nebraska area. Some oriented further to the south, like this one you could see. And again, this is the 15 days, so a lot of the snow that's falling here is from other systems that will come after this. But just look for that heavy axis. Notice this one right there is further to the south. Some, again, a lot of them show it across the Illinois and into Wisconsin, Iowa area, kind of this region right here. But you can see this one shows it further to the south, and some even show it further to the north, right? But definitely a northern shift, and whether or not that will continue shifting to the north, we'll have to see. Look at that. I mean a lot of snow regardless, right? GFS members, this is another ensemble group that I want to show you, as they are showing something a bit different. Let's take a look at the East Coast United States. So this will be very zoomed out, but it will encompass a lot of the folks I want to show. Okay, we got to reset navigation. Sorry, sometimes this does occur. East Coast snowfall. Let's go. Come on, guys. And I want to look at the most recent model run for that accuracy. So again, as I mentioned, this is kind of far zoomed out. You can see that the eastern United States is kind of small on here. Notice what it shows, right? I did cut off a bit of this because that's not my the reasoning or my decision is the East Coast, the region, as it shows. And notice that with that first wave, the GFS members are a bit stronger with it. Notice it shows some decent snow further to the north. They're still kind of disagreeing on exact orientation. Some show it further to the north, say cutting off Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, while others bring it kind of more west to east oriented, more horizontal, so that would bring it further to the south. But definitely still something to watch for even from that first wave, right? Now, the second wave, you can see the GFS members do show. You can see, for example, look at that model right there bringing in that snow. And let me just bring it through, say, hour 180. Notice a lot of models show it further to the south than the EPS members, but there has been a northern trend. Notice right there, Pennsylvania into New York, literally New York City. A lot of these models showing slightly different scenarios. I would say there's less agreement across the GFS members and the European members. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? At this point, I would say that's a maybe a sign of less confidence, but maybe they're just getting onto a trend of some sort. So we'll just have to see. Notice that this one's showing it into the Carolinas. Some do show similar resonance or resemblance to what the European shows. You can see across the Midwest, but definitely a beast of a system that we'll just have to watch for. So thank you guys so much for watching. That's basically it for today's video, and just stay safe, right? This system is going to be big regardless of where it occurs. At this point, it's looking pretty significant. And if say a scenario like the Canadian were to unfold, there would be a reasonably high amount of snow, as you can see right there. So across the west included, as I mentioned, across Utah, Nevada, California, Arizona. Alright, that's basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.